Hi everybody, this is Dr. Dan, and this is our fourth ProjectLibre video. We left off last time where we had our schedule mostly set up. Gantt chart looks pretty good, but now we need to make sure that all this work can happen as we planned, right? As it's currently set up, I can see that there's no way things are going to get done because we have just too much to do and not enough time, right, with all this overlap. So to do a little better on our planning, we need to assign resources for each of these tasks. And in ProjectLibre, the resources can be either people or materials. For this, we're just focusing on the people resources. Okay, so to start, we have to make some resources. And so to do that, we've been working under this task tab, but now we can go over to the resource tab and we can look at what resources we have. We're not going to worry about a lot of this table. You can see you can do a lot more here, like estimate how much the project will cost based on like pay rates and cost of materials and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add some resources. I'm going to add me as a resource. I'm also usually have two TAs, so I'll just name my TAs, my kids, Sam and Bella. So they'll be my TAs. Okay, we are all work type of resources, not materials. Okay, some of the stuff we don't really need. I do want to explain the max units. If you're working for a company, you might be working on multiple different projects, right? Like maybe you're working 3 different projects and one takes half your time and then the other 2 are like 25% of your time. So if you know you can only have somebody for like 25% of the time for the project, you can put that in here. So this is, again, a little bit more cosmetic than anything else, but like just realistically, I can't work full time on BME 245L. I have 2 other classes to plan for. I got all the other stuff I have to do. Right, so maybe my contribution for 245L can only be 25% of the time. The TAs are only supposed to work 20 hours a week because they still have to do their research the other part of the time. So really, I only have the TAs for 50% of their work week as well. So I'll go ahead and put that in there. Again, I could put in pay rates and all that stuff like that. I'm not going to worry about that. One thing I do want to set up is the correct calendar. You guys remember I had some struggle last time saving the calendar, and so we don't have the My Calendar show up here. You know, this is a different day, so I'm going to try this again just to kind of get you used to, okay, sometimes you got to work things out, right? And so I'm going to go back to tasks in the Gantt chart. Okay, I'm going to go back to calendar. Okay, it's not there now for whatever reason, so I'm going to do a new calendar. I'm going to call it My Calendar. I'm going to create a new base calendar, see what happens from this. Okay, so I got my calendar. Again, I think the only changes we made are, hey, I'm not working on Thanksgiving, but I am going to go ahead and work those last 2 weekends of December. So I hit OK. I'm going to see if this task shows up under Take Inventory, the calendar. So I go to Advanced. Oh, and there it is, My Calendar. Okay, so the lesson I learned from this is maybe when you make a new calendar, create a new base calendar. Don't make a copy. Maybe that's the best thing I can tell you. Okay, so we have our calendar, and really what I want to look at is the resources and assign the calendar. Oh, it even shows up there. Okay, so normally you can just drop down like that. So everybody's set up to My Calendar. And again, the only changes I made there were just adding those 2 extra days of work in December and then taking off the 2 extra days of work in Thanksgiving. And so you can imagine like each person might have their own particular calendar if there's like vacation or whatever the case might be. So you guys might need to do that for your projects, just setting up your calendar, making more of the changes that I need. And that way everybody's set up to when they're going to work. Okay, now we have our resources set up. So it's time to go assign resources to the tasks. And so we're going to go back to our task, back to our Gantt chart, and we'll just start with our planning tasks. This is going to be me. I don't have any TAs working on planning tasks. I'm going to move this out and show you that we do have the resource names over here. So like I can double click on this. If I go to resources, you click this button and I can choose a resource, right? And I can only work 25% of the time. So I hit 25. And I just want to point out, so right now it says take inventory is 0.25 days. So I hit assign 0.25 days or 25%. Okay, and now it made it take one entire day. Okay, and so I can close that and look at this, and it still does have 2 hours. So me working at 25% is a quarter of the day, which is 2 hours. So it worked that out and it rescheduled this so it's a full day now. Okay, so I can go on and do the same thing for all these other ones where I'm going to 25% assign me for that. Okay, it did the same thing with order supplies. Delivery is actually not me, so I don't need to assign me as a resource to that. But clean out and start incubators is. So I'll click on that. Again, that would be me at 25%. Now that one, it didn't reset the number of days. So one of the ways you can check is just how many hours it is, right? And so remember I said it'd take about 6 hours to clean and start incubators. So this didn't correctly work. When I click on this one, it is 2 hours, so that worked. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and put in the number of days to make it work. 6 hours, right? And so 6 hours would be 3 days. So I'm gonna put 3 days in here. Okay, now I double click this and you can say it has me scheduled for 6 hours. That's because I'm at 25% of an 8-hour day, so it's 2 hours each day. Okay, now I'm going to do these same things from these growing out cells. I think the difference here is though, I'll show you what will happen, right? I'm going to assign me as a resource. And again, 25%. Sometimes it's a little painful. Okay, and it put it at, it put me at 0.5 days, which is fine. But really, I don't want to have like seed cells from storage as a half-day task, right? And then the cells grow out for 4 days, right? I think it's just easier to kind of say that, okay, in one day, I'm going to seed the cells. Then 4 days later, the cells are going to grow out. And then I'm going to passage on another day into a T225 flask. Like eventually, some of those things will start to catch up. It'll be like, well, you had a half day for seeding cells, right? So you can do that. And then you have cells grow out, and it'll do that for 4 days. Then you have another half day. And so I feel like there will be a loss of a day in there eventually where it won't leave me enough time to leave cells out. So I am actually going to make sure that all these, even though I'm only scheduled for 25% of the time, not 200. Right, I want to make sure those take 1 full day no matter what. Going to kind of keep going here. Okay, and so that's not right. It is a full day for that. Right, and that gives me the 2 hours. Free cells. Is going to be 1 day. And put cells in liquid nitrogen. Is also going to be 1 full day. Okay, and so now we can see in the Gantt chart, we have all these things going on. The other thing that I think I do want to change here and think about is giving the cells their own calendar, right? Because one thing I'm showing is that, okay, I have the cells going over the weekend. And of course, cells keep growing over the weekend. And so it's thinking that the cells are growing out in 4 days over 4 calendar days, right? Or working days. So it's going Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, right? But that's actually cells growing for 6 days. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my resources. And I'm going to put cells in here. And cells, they go 100% of the time. And they are on a 24-hour calendar. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my Gantt chart. And we're going to put some work for the cells. So Notice now the cells growing out are happening over 6 days because they're happening over the weekend. And I need to change this by assigning cells to that task. Okay, so now I've assigned the cells. It's 4 days. You can see it's very short. And so if I double click this again and look what it actually means, it says cells are working for 32 hours, which is that's not what we want, right? We need cells to be growing for 4 full days. Okay, so again, I have to trick this out where cells are growing over 4 full days. Again, just over, whether it's over the weekend or not. So total hours for 4 days will be 96 hours. So that's really what I want this to say, that they're working for 96 hours. So I need to change this, right? Because right now it's 4 days times 8, 32. So I need to change this. Instead of 4 days, it needs to be 12 days, which is now 96 hours of work. So that's right. Okay, so we got me seeding the cells on Friday, and then we got the cells growing Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then me doing the passaging on Wednesday. Okay, so that's what we want to see. Even though it says 12 days, it's not quite right, but based on the calendar, it's better than it was where the cells were actually growing for 6 days. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Assign some cells. I'm going to go ahead and make this one 12 days as well. Now, just to be sure, I'm going to also make the task calendar for this a 24-hour task calendar. Same thing with cells growing out, 24-hour task calendar. Okay, so again, I have my cells seemingly doing the right thing here. And so things are shifting around because it's making the right time. And then cells will freeze into -80 overnight. Again, we want to make that 24 hours. So I have to make it 3 days. And now it's cells going for 24 hours. Okay, and now we have a more realistic calendar for the cells and me working on the cells. All right, the other last things I need to set up are set up Canvas and make syllabus, right? So I can just put me as a resource for both these at 25%. So again, just going through this, it tells me, okay, I'm only working 6 hours, but I know that's not accurate. So I need to change the number of days, right? I said this is more like 24 hours. So to make that right, I need to put in 12 days in here, I think. So if I double click on this now it's got me working 24 hours for this, right? And the make syllabus, same deal. I said it would take me about 8 hours. So I'm going to assign me as a resource at 25%. And again, I need to change the time to make it 8 hours. So that's going to be 4 days. And that gives me 8 hours there. All these advanced, right? I can now set my task calendar to my calendar on all these. So I'll tell you right now that it's not that important for these planning tests for me because I didn't change anything about the task calendar earlier. Where it will be important is where I do grading, because that's when we talk about Thanksgiving and that, those extra days in December to work. Okay, and I know a lot of this doesn't exactly apply to what you're doing, but I wanted to do all this and talk through it to demonstrate something, right? Demonstrate that planning is not necessarily easy. It takes a lot of thought, consideration of a lot of factors. Maybe you don't have the exact same factors I have, but you will have some things that exactly aren't straightforward, right? I promise you that's going to happen. And you have to work with it, and you have to think through and come up with a plan that works best for your project based on availability of people when things need to get done, right? And how long things will actually take. All right, we're going to jump ahead to our grading section here. And so like for all these, I'm going to pretty much assign people. First of all, though, my mechanical testing papers, the resources for that are going to be my TAs. Okay, so I'm going to assign Sam 50%, Bella 50% on that. Okay, and so it did change it to 1.5 days with them working 10 hours each. So that's not quite right. We're expecting them to take 20 hours each. Okay, so I need to change the number of hours and the time here. So I'm going to change this. Really, this should be 5 days. Okay, so I tried to, you saw me try to type in 5 days, but it said 4, but there's 20 hours each. So there's like a constraint here that it's unhappy with. We're going to fix that in a second. I'm not going to worry about it right now, other than the fact that, hey, it looks like they're both working 20 hours, so that's good. I'm going to live with that. Okay, grade exams. I do all the exam grading. Okay, so I'm going to change this to be me at 25%. Okay, all of a sudden, all the cell stuff showed up over here. I'm not sure why, but we're going to get that fixed. We did say the exams would probably take me a total of 32 hours of grading, so that's in there. I'm going to close this, and you can see like things don't work now as we needed. So I'm going to first change this to make sure I have my calendar on there. Okay. And same with the mech testing paper, because this is where we want to make sure that it is using the right calendar. So right now things are not working. Let's not worry about that. Let's just assign resources for the rest of these. These reflection essays are all me. So again, 25%. Okay, but I did say it would take longer than 1.5 hours, so I need to change the number of days for the reflection essays to make it take the right amount of hours, which is 3 days. So that's 6 hours, which was my original estimate. Same on the bioethics reflection. So you can see how frustrating this can be. Okay, I think I finally got that to work. I don't know what was going on before, but it kept adding Sam on there. Okay, anyway, just understand that this happens to everybody, right? So if it's happening to you, I know it's a little frustrating. I'm getting frustrated trying to record a video and like weird stuff's happening. Like I don't know why all my planning tasks are now over here, but they are. We'll deal with that later. Okay, and the last one we have is finalize and submit grades. So again, we talked about this being a 4-hour thing. The way I'd see those 4 hours being spent is probably my TAs each spending an hour and me spending 2 hours on it. So normally if I go in here and I add me at 25% and the TAs each at 50%, they will each be working twice as much as me. So I don't want that. I want to be working twice as much as the TA. So I'm going to go ahead and change. I'm going to put me as 100%. I'm going to put the TAs each at 50% and see if that works out. Okay, at 0.25 days. So there we go. We have me 2 hours and them each working 1 hour. Okay, so that's the right amount of time. It gives me a quarter of a day. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave it. Okay, and so you saw some of the frustrations coming out, just some of the weird things going on. And again, that's not a bad thing. It lets you see that, hey, everybody's going to have these struggles. But I need to go ahead and I still need to fix things, right? I still have me working too much in this area, right, all simultaneously. I still have like me overlapped all here as well. And like it has me start grading exams before the exams are even given. So I got to figure out how we can fix that. So I'm going to make one final video about getting this schedule perfect. You'll find it a little frustrating, but I'll try to share some hints to get it working.